They told me to forget, to never speak of that night again. But silence is heavy, heavier than the truth. I kept it buried. Until now. I was alone in the West Wing. It was late, well past midnight. The halls were silent. Not even the usual shuffle of Secret Service boots echoed through the marble corridors. They had left me a package. No return address. Just a black envelope, thicker than any classified document I had ever received. Inside, a cassette tape. Handwritten on the label, faded, trembling letters. Kronos, test file 17. It meant nothing to me. Until I heard his voice. Not mine. His. A voice I didn't recognize, yet felt like I had known my whole life. If you're listening to this, the voice said, you've already changed something you weren't supposed to. I paused the tape. Suddenly the silence around me felt dense, like the room itself was breathing. I hit play again. He spoke of a project, buried beneath the Capitol, before even Kennedy's time. A lab. A room. A door that shouldn't exist. It was called Project Kronos. And he warned, time doesn't forgive. It remembers. That night, I didn't sleep. I couldn't. I went down there. They never told a president what he wasn't allowed to know. But someone had hidden this place so well. They must have known one day. Someone like me would go looking. And I did. What I found wasn't a machine. Not at first. It was a door. Cold. Metal. Sealed tight. But something behind it was humming. It wasn't loud. It was steady. Like a heartbeat. I stood there for hours, I think. Time felt strange. Slower. Then faster. Then still. And that's when I saw it. Not with my eyes, but in my mind. A future. Not ours. One shaped by a single decision I hadn't yet made. They told me to forget. But how do you forget a future you already lived? They say the past is behind us. But what if it's not? What if it's still waiting? They say power isolates you. That when you climb too high, you lose the sound of ordinary life. Like the laugh of a child. The creak of an old wooden pew. The sound of your own breath when you're afraid. They were right. Because that night, standing in front of that door beneath the Capitol, I couldn't hear anything. Not the hum of the lights. Not the buzz of my security radio. Not even my own heartbeat. Only the ticking. It came from behind the steel. Slow, methodical, almost compassionate. It was a door like no other. Heavy as a bank vault. Sealed with no handle. No keypad. Just a single, glowing red circle in the middle. It pulsed every few seconds, like it was waiting for something. Or someone. I pressed my hand to the steel. Cold. Like it hadn't been touched in decades. Maybe longer. And then it opened. No hiss. No mechanical sound. It just opened. Inside, the air was warm. Stale. Dry like the pages of a forgotten Bible. The room was round, made entirely of dark concrete, with one chair in the center and cables that looked like veins stretching out from the floor to the walls. On the wall across from me was a screen, black, until I stepped in. Then it came alive. My face. But older. Eyes hollowed by regret. Mouth tight with things unsaid. It was me, but broken. And then he spoke. If you're hearing this, Bill, you opened the door. That was your first mistake. I don't remember sitting down. I don't remember breathing. I just listened. He explained everything. The project started in 1954, Operation Kronos. A classified collaboration between physicists, mystics, and men who believed God left clues in time. They didn't want to travel through time. No, they wanted to speak to it. To ask questions. To understand decisions before they were made. To whisper into the past and see who listened. They thought they were building a mirror. But what they made was a voice. One that didn't echo, but answered. Kronos is not a machine, he said. It's a presence. A space. And once you've entered it, it remembers you. Always. He warned me. You will be tempted. To fix something. To save someone. To rewrite a moment you regret. But time is not a river, Bill. It's a body. And it will bleed. I stood up. Shaking. Part of me wanted to walk out. Close the door. Burn the tape. Forget. But there was a question burning in me. One I had buried for years. What if I could go back? To the moment before it all fell apart. The scandal. The silence. The shame. What if I could choose again? I stepped toward the chair. A screen lit up. One question appeared. Which moment do you wish to change? And I realized I didn't have one answer. I had dozens. This wasn't about redemption anymore. It was about control. And once you sit in that chair, you don't leave the same man. They told me not to choose. They warned me that time was not meant to be handled, that it breathes, resists, remembers. But temptation speaks louder than wisdom, especially when it sounds like a second chance. I didn't pick a moment of victory. I didn't choose to relive the applause of a crowd or the oath on the Bible. I picked a failure, a single briefing, August 6th, 2001, the one I never saw. I told the machine to send me back 2 years before. Just a whisper into the timeline, a memo that couldn't be ignored. Bin Laden determined to strike in U.S. That's all I wanted. A warning, not a revolution, not what came next. It worked. At first, the document landed. The right people read it. Countermeasures were taken. The attacks didn't happen. Thousands of lives were saved. The Twin Towers stood tall. America cheered. They called me a prophet. But then history twisted. Because in saving one tragedy, I gave birth to another. October 2002. A man no one had heard of, Colonel Marcus Raines, declared a state of emergency after a failed coup in California. He blamed the federal visionaries, people like me, for meddling with fate. He seized control of military assets, declared D.C. a compromised zone. Within weeks, Congress had dissolved. Elections were suspended, and I became a relic. They put my face on wanted posters, called me the architect of the shadow timeline. They said I had corrupted the sacred flow of time. But I only sent a message. In this new America, the tower still stood, but freedom didn't. You needed clearance to walk 5 blocks in your own city. Children were tested for chronological sensitivity, as if time had become an infection. People disappeared. The news was pre-written. And the man who ruled over it all, Raines, he wasn't a politician. He was a variable the timeline had never meant to exist. This world was born of your mercy, a resistant soldier once told me. You spared the innocent and birthed the inevitable. I tried to explain, try to go back again, to fix my fix, but the machine wouldn't open. Once you enter time, it seals you in its new design. I wasn't just lost in history. I was lost in a history I made. I saved one morning, and in doing so, I damned every morning that followed. I've heard it said that hell is other people. They were wrong. Hell is meeting the person you could have become. Not in metaphor, not in dreams, but in flesh. In this new America, ruled by Colonel Raines and his doctrine of temporal purity, I had become a ghost, a fugitive from my own decisions, a man stripped of context, hunted for a crime he didn't commit, yet undeniably caused. For weeks I wandered through the ruins of my legacy. The monuments were gone. My portrait in the White House had been burned. History books referred to me only as William the Catalyst. No last name, no presidency, just an event, an error. But they didn't find me. He did. It was in an abandoned chapel just outside New York. The sky outside was blood orange. Ash drifted in the air, soft as snow. The altar was untouched. And in the first pew, a man sat waiting, his back to me. Still, familiar. I knew that posture, the way his hands were folded, the tilt of the neck. I stepped closer, and he spoke without turning. They thought you'd come here eventually, he said. You always did believe in forgiveness. His voice was mine, but rougher, slower, hardened. He turned, and I saw him me, but not the man I remembered. Not the one who signed peace accords and played saxophone on late-night TV. This version was lean, grayed, his eyes sunk deep with decisions no man should ever make. He wore a uniform, not military, not presidential, something in between, something imperial. You opened the door, he said, and walked away. I didn't. When they came for the machine, I sealed it. I stayed. You wanted to fix the world. I became it. I asked him what that meant. He smiled. You saw time as a story. I saw it as a throne. That's when it hit me. In this timeline, He never tried to undo the intervention. He embraced it, bent history to his will, used the power of Chronos not to correct fate, but to right it. He orchestrated everything. Reigns, the surveillance state, the doctrine of the new republic, and he wore my face. I felt sick. You think you failed, he said, but I was the consequence, the sum of your hesitation. You whispered into the past. I shouted. He stood and walked toward me. We were inches apart. Same height, same hands, same voice, different souls. Why are you here? He asked. To beg, to reverse what cannot be undone, to destroy me. I shook my head. I came to understand, I said, to see what I truly changed. He laughed, cold, bitter. Then look around. This is your monument. He gestured to the chapel. Above the altar, where once hung the image of Christ, now hung the sigil of Chronos, a crimson spiral encircling a hollow circle. Time weaponized. Do you know what I've learned? He whispered. Redemption is noise. Power is silence. And when history listens, it listens only to those who never ask for forgiveness. I couldn't speak, because deep down, I saw it. The version of me who never stepped back, who didn't fear the machine, who leaned into the power and lost his humanity. That was the man I almost became. And in his eyes, I saw not hatred, but pity. I left the chapel as dusk fell. The streets were empty. The towers still stood, but so did the walls, and the curfews, and the silence. I thought I had bent time to protect the innocent, but I had created a mirror, one that reflected every ambition I never dared admit, every impulse I buried under diplomacy and speeches. That man wasn't a monster. He was me, stripped of restraint. And now I knew. If I ever wanted to set things right, I wouldn't just need to go back. I'd need to erase myself. They say history is written by the victors, but I've come to believe it's rewritten by the guilty. And no one in history has ever been more guilty than me. Chronos gave me a gift, or a curse, that no human should possess. Not because it was dangerous, but because it was too tempting, too perfect, too clean. A single choice, whispered into the bloodstream of time, and the world shifts. I wanted redemption, a second chance. Maybe I just wanted to be remembered differently. But what I made was a world I couldn't recognize. And now, as I stand before the mechanism one last time, I understand the final truth. This wasn't about saving time. It was about erasing me. The chamber was colder now, quieter. Chronos didn't pulse like it used to. It waited, as if expecting me. In front of me, the interface blinked, no sound, no welcome. Just one message, looping endlessly in white letters. Protocol 47 ready. Subject, Clinton, William Jefferson. Status, anomaly. It wasn't accusing me. It was simply stating a fact. I had broken something. Something that couldn't be undone with another jump, another whisper. Time wasn't asking me to fix it. It was asking me to leave. I approached the console. My reflection stared back at me in the screen. Not the tyrant I had seen in the chapel. Not the hopeful boy from Arkansas. Just a tired man. Wrinkled. Worn. Afraid. Chronos spoke again, but not in voice. In sensation. Flashes. Hillary. Her laugh in the morning before the cameras came. Chelsea's eyes the day I told her I had made mistakes. My mother's hands. The first podium I ever stood behind. And the cold silence of the White House halls at 3 a.m. Each memory glowed. Each one a thread I'd pull if I said no. This is not deletion, Chronos finally whispered. It is removal from resonance. Time will no longer recall you, but it will heal. I asked a question, not out loud, just in my mind. Will anyone know I was here? Chronos paused, then answered. They will know peace. That is enough. I sat, for a long time, maybe hours, maybe seconds. I thought about everything I had gained, everything I had lost. Power, family, purpose. I had tried to do good, but I had done something worse than evil. I had rewritten innocence. Even my enemies had been born from my interference. And now, the only way forward was through absence. The screen changed. Initiate Protocol 47. Yes /no. I stared at it, and for once, I didn't feel afraid. I felt clean, like I was finally telling the truth. I pressed yes. If you find this recording, it means something went wrong. Or maybe something finally went right. There was a man. Once, he made a mistake. Then another. Then, he tried to undo them. He failed. But in the end, he chose to let go. To stop rewriting. To let history breathe again. You won't find his name in books. You won't see him in photographs. But maybe you'll feel it. A moment of stillness. A softer world. That was him. That was me. And now, I am no one. If you like the video, don't forget to subscribe and press the like button.